Positive Lens Podcasts. I'm your host, Scott T. Each week, we will bring you positive law enforcement news stories from across the globe, shared by departments and citizens like yourself. In our Getting to Know Your Local Leo segment, we will speak with a member of the law enforcement community about everyday life and most things non-law enforcement, as we hope to adjust your focus so you see that members of your local law enforcement community are not much different than you and me.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 37. I'm your host, Scott T. This has been a week of many great happenings, and pending your flavor, it could span a variety of areas. We're going to talk about a few things. One, we've had the Olympics, and Michaela Schifrin capturing her first gold medal since 2018. The cheating allegations in Canada in curling. Honestly, I learned more about curling this week than I ever had in my life. And both the USA women's and men's hockey teams trying to capture the gold medal, which would be awesome. If you're into auto racing, you had a Michael Jordan-owned NASCAR team capture the Daytona 500 with race driver Tyler Reddick. Yes, that's the same Michael Jordan who won 6 NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls. Go figure. Winners always find a way to win. And Formula One, they're in their last week of testing Bahrain before their first race, the Australian Grand Prix, on March 7th. And heck, if you're not into sports, we certainly had some interesting things overseas with the arrests of former Prince Andrew related to the Epstein files, which we all know what that's about. And I cannot remember if this was announced last week or this week, but Jet2 gave 2 passengers who had the brawl on the flight from Turkey to England, where they had to be diverted to Brussels, a lifetime ban. We surely hope that fight was worth it. But honestly, the most important thing that happened this week was on Sunday, February 15th, and that was School Resource Officer Appreciation Day. I would like to dedicate this episode to talking about our school resource officers. They are amazing. These men and women are the line between potential tragedy and daily triumph. I use the word triumph because every day one of our family members comes home is a win. Every day these SROs go to their assigned location to protect our most precious children. Now I know there have been some instances in the past where the school resource officer may not have performed the duties as expected, but that is not today's focus. Today, we're going to focus on 3 key areas: protection, relationships, and role model. Now, I already alluded to the fact that these SROs protect our children every day, but they also protect the staff and faculty at the schools. These protections, though, are not just active shooter threats or mass casualty events. Kids bring other weapons into the schools or school parking lots. Knives could be one of those things. A variety of objects could be dangerous and cause potential harm. They also assist with the search of drugs that are brought to school, in school backpacks, lockers, whatever it may be. They're all different types of forms of protection that the school resource officer has to be aware of that's happening in the school to protect all those who are there for either work or attendance. The challenge is they cannot be everywhere. So who is going to fund it? Well, that is something we're going to talk about a little bit later in this episode. But again, I cannot say enough about how much I appreciate the work our school resource officers do around the country to protect our schools and keep our classrooms and children safe. The relationships, that's something that often gets overlooked. It's a valuable component of having a school resource officer in a K-12 setting. That relationship that they build with students who are also members of the community that law enforcement serves is invaluable. While I personally do not remember the names, because it's been many years, of the school resource officers that were in my middle school and high school, I certainly remember the experiences. Honestly, I cannot remember if we had one in elementary school though. But one of the coolest things that we got to experience was when our school resource officer in middle school was able to start using a confiscated drug car. And I say confiscated drug car, referring to an individual's car who was, due to a drug bust, confiscated, and it was repurposed to various different outfits to be used within the community. And in this case, the car was converted to a police car. It was actually a Stingray Corvette. So that was pretty awesome. And you want to talk about a way to have your conversations with a group of kids? No brainer. Of course, not the most functional for transporting a suspect who had been arrested, but that was not of a concern to us in those days. We saw the car and we just want to spend time taking a look at it, sitting in it, and talking to the officer to learn more about it. So again, that allowed us to foster a relationship with our SRO, and it was purely based off of the car he was driving. So pretty cool. However, these relationships are not formed because of the uniform they wear. Actually, it's quite the contrary. It's formed because they engage with the kids. I had an SRO explain to me that one of his kids' parents told their child not to talk to the officer, not to talk to him, to avoid getting in trouble. What kind of lesson is it to teach your child that talking to an officer is going to get you in trouble? Now, if you're out there getting in trouble or looking for trouble and you're telling the officer the things you're doing, the crimes you're committing, well, that can be anybody's going to get in trouble. But the fact is that building relationships while in school can keep a child out of trouble. The school resource officer, they learn about you, your family, your friends. They get understanding about the things you like to do, and they become aware of ways to help you. They know who some of the troubled kids are at school or the ones that are causing issues, so they can let you know of scenarios without divulging information about just being cautious, a way to look out for yourself and a way for them to help you really navigate the day without any conflict. But they're also a counselor to some extent. If you're having trouble with something in school, you can talk to them. There's no reason to fear, though, talking to them because you're getting in trouble. They do not handle your grades. They're not your teachers. They don't pass out assignments. They don't tell you what your due dates are. But if you're struggling and you need to talk to somebody, you can talk to them. Because again, it's not a punitive relationship. It's a beneficial relationship if you're willing to invest in it. All you need to do is talk to your school resource officer. Some have even been known to hit the basketball courts with the kids or spend time in the classroom doing artwork with them. This is wonderful experiences for kids to get to know them, see them at a level of an everyday person rather than just simply saying, that's a police officer, I got to watch out everything I do. They become sounding boards for the kids and someone sometimes just to talk to, another voice who's not going to judge them. As we emphasize on this podcast, members of your local law enforcement community are not much different than you and me or the people in the community they serve. So remember, some of them are even coaches of your kids' sports teams. That's who some of these SROs are. So your child talking to them, engaging with them, interacting with them, is really a great benefit. These relationships, though, are built on time together, and they build trust. They create respect, and they develop bridges to the community. The children start to see the police as their allies, not their enemies. They have less fear to report a crime that they see, or maybe even willing to come forward if the crime is actually happening within their own home, which happens. But a parent who's afraid to mention a crime because of the consequences or something that could develop worse for the family, this child seeing it, they are trying to protect one of the family members from abuse, whatever it may be happening, now could feel empowered because they have this relationship with their school resource officer to come forward and talk to them about it and have a resolution. So do not miss these relationships. They are vitally important to our children as long as they open their hearts and minds to seeing the value, and we as parents support this. The other thing I want to talk about is how they're role models. And when I say they're role models, this is not a position that they actually usually are reserved for. The school resource officer is, they don't go into the school to become a role model. And really, some would even argue that it's the parent's responsibility to be the role model, not the school resource officer. Well, I hate to break it to you, but not every child has an actively engaged parent in their household, whether it be a two-parent household or a single-parent household. This could be for a variety of reasons, but to go with two extremes, let's say a parent is a deadbeat and has no interest in doing anything to their child and really just wants to collect government money to feed their own vices. Or on the other end, you have a parent who is busting their behind, working 2 and 3 jobs to keep a roof over their head and food on the table, which is outstanding. But while that parent is being a role model of working hard, that child at a young age potentially does not understand the real concept of money responsibilities. But let's go what they do. They learn a behavior, they work hard, it's evident, and they're seeing their parent working 2 and 3 jobs. But what they're not seeing, unfortunately, is their child home with them. So this leads to a situation where the child could be in trouble during those hours, because children get in trouble during times when they're unsupervised. We all know that. This is where the SRO can help serve as a role model, speaking to the child, spending time with the child, reinforcing the values, morals, behaviors, respect, emphasizing and appreciating the hard work that the parent is doing, but never talking negatively about the parent who could be the deadbeat. That is not their place. Now, one does not ask to be a role model, or at least shouldn't. It happens naturally, preferably through positive, actual engagement, not your favorite athlete on TV who you really know nothing about. So I want this to be, explaining the appreciation of these school resource officers. They spend time with the children, protecting them. They have the ability to build relationships with them and become role models for them. But that protection is challenged by numbers. So I want to go back to it. As of 2019 or 20, there were approximately about 130,000 children in grades K through 12 in the U.S. Take a guess how many SROs we had during that same time period. Yeah, approximately 24,000. That's more than 5 schools per school resource officer. Those numbers do not work. Yes, they are better odds than winning the lottery, but I'm not betting our child's lives on the lottery. I believe we need a school resource officer in every school in America. Yeah, I've heard the talk about Army teachers, and, well, I'm not going to cover that topic. It does not alleviate the need for an SRO. While protection is the obvious focus of their role, they have a great impact on the kids they serve in the school, and it goes further than just protecting and more than anyone really wants to believe. The question, though, comes, who is going to pay for it? My question is, what price are you willing to put on your child's life? Let's put some numbers together. Based on some research, we'll say an average salary for an SRO is $100,000. Average school has about 500 kids. Well, that's equivalent to $200 per child. So I really would want to know, is your child life worth $200? Of course it is. Larger schools, less per child. Smaller schools, more per child. So that's basic math, right? So who pays? The short answer is, I don't care. But that doesn't solve the problem. The school districts generally will have close to about a 75-25 split on the ratio of who covers the salary of the officer. And it makes sense, as they're probably in school 75% of the year. They have the police work on the other side of it. They are truly, while they're at the school, reporting as a police officer, sheriff's officer through the department they work for, even though the budget is paid that way. The officers focus while at the school is 100% there, and they should be, and that's great. So going back to paying now, I would say let's stop asking to provide the school tissues, markers, hand sanitizers, and other supplies to share with the classroom, and focus on funding the school districts to have SROs in every school in America. I don't want to wait for the next tragedy to justify the expense. I want to make the investment now to reduce the chances of tragedy. Maybe that is doing fundraising efforts. Maybe that is doing activities where kids can compete, and those funding efforts are generating revenue for the next school year. We have the American Heart Association. We have the Relay for Life. We have various different things happening at schools. Your 8th graders, your 9th graders, your 10th graders, they love to participate and get involved in activities. Get them out there. Get the kids out from behind the computer screen. Get the kids out from behind the cell phone. Get them out doing something to help fundraise. Make it a joint effort where the kids are working with the police department to help fund their own school resource officer. I know it sounds crazy, but no one wants to raise taxes. But what we can do is raise awareness. What we can do is build relationship. What we can do is have those kids working alongside their potential SRO so they can raise $200 per child from the whole previous school year that will fund an SRO the next year. Again, just an idea. This is not the only answer. It's just mentioning one of the possible solutions, as I want us to be able to find ways to make this happen. So, again, the school resource officers, I want to thank all of them for serving our schools throughout the U.S. Don't wait for the tragedy to justify the expense. Make the investment now to reduce the chance of the tragedy. I'm only proposing an idea, a solution to a possible budget shortfall. It doesn't mean it's the only answer. There are many great minds around this country that can help solve this problem. We just need to make sure that everyone knows that it needs to be solved. So again, I want to thank all of the school resource officers serving our schools throughout the U.S. You are tasked with protecting tomorrow's world leaders, tomorrow's doctors, tomorrow's teachers, tomorrow's first responders, and tomorrow's tradesmen. But more important, you are tasked with protecting today's innocent child of a mom and or dad who send their child off to school to learn, play, develop, and remain innocent for as long as their world will allow them to be. The work you do can never truly be measured in KPIs. Yes, we can calculate the number of prevented occurrences, and really, every day a child comes home is a triumph, a win, a day to celebrate the greatness of your work. The soft skills you employ, communicating with the children, spending time with them, building those relationships, being a role model when necessary, can never truly be quantified, but their worth is invaluable. I hope all take a few moments out of their day when they are at their child's school or their place of employment, if you're a teacher, a faculty, or administrative member, and say thank you to your school's school resource officer. They deserve it. And our children deserve to have them present. Thank you again, SROs. And here at Your Positive Lens, we appreciate all you do and the sacrifices you make to keep America's schools and classrooms safe. God bless you, and God bless America's future.
If you liked this episode, follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Provide us your feedback in the comments and leave us a rating or review. We truly appreciate your opinion. And then follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook to get all the latest updates. Remember, you can always find places that will share negative law enforcement news stories. But here at Your Positive Lens, you will only find your positive law enforcement news stories. Once again, I'm your host, Scott T. Thanks for listening, and we'll capture you on the next